You ever have one of those mornings where it feels like the world's just waiting for you to give up, where even the air's got a weight to it, and every sound rings out a little too sharp, like it's reminding you how empty everything's gotten? That's where I was, standing on the splintered porch of my family farm, shoulders sagging under the weight of 3 generations who'd worked this land, watching the sun come up over fields that once fed the whole county, but now just coughed up dust and stubborn weeds. You know what I mean, right? The kind of quiet that gets into your bones. The bank's final notice was still on the table inside 3 weeks left. Then everything would be gone, auctioned off to someone who'd see this place as nothing but acreage and profit. I don't know how many times I've tried to fix those leaning fence posts, how many splinters I've pulled out of these hands that don't stop shaking, now maybe from too many years holding on to hope that the world doesn't offer men like me anymore. I'd sold off the cattle, then the chickens, even the old mare that belonged to my dad just to keep afloat. The tractor's rusting away out back, barn roof half caved in, patches on patches holding nothing together anymore. But you keep moving out of habit. You walk the fields, check the gates that haven't held anything in for months, patch what doesn't need patching, because it's better than sitting still waiting for the end. Nights were the worst. I'd dream about this place, but in the dreams it was already stripped bare, the walls echoing with voices me grandfathers, my fathers telling me I'd failed. I'd reach for the earth, and it'd slip through my fingers like ashes. I'd wake up sweating, heart pounding, but always get up in the morning, because what else do you do? That's the funny thing about hope. It's not loud, doesn't show up with trumpets. It's just stubborn. You keep walking, you keep working, you tell yourself you'll fight until there's nothing left to fight for. And that's how I ended up in the middle of the thunderstorm, staring down at the mess the night had left, shingles ripped off, fence posts half washed away, yard torn up like a wounded animal. But what caught my eye wasn't the broken barn or the empty chicken coop. It was a scar on the far rid hayo wound in the earth that hadn't been there the day before. Let me back up a sec. The storm had hit hard, harder than any in years, and it had carved open the side of the ravine out past the north field. By midday, curiosity had got me, and I picked my way through the mud to see what the damage was. That's when I found Ida cave mouth, black and cold, big enough for a man to crawl inside if he ducked his head. Something about it felt like it had been waiting. The draft from inside was old, wet, and metallic, carrying a smell that didn't belong above ground. You'd think after all these years, I'd know better than to poke my nose into trouble. Land out here's swallowed barns, collapsed wells, turned sweet water bitter overnight. But the urge to know what was inside, maybe it was desperation, or just the old itch to find something worth believing in, pushed me to fetch the lantern, a coil of rope, and the pickaxe my dad left me. The first step in was like walking into another world. The air pressed down thick, boots scraping against stone that echoed back forever. The passage narrowed, then widened into pockets of shadow, water dripping in slow, careful rhythms from above. At first, it looked empty, but then I saw itchered wood, old ash, blackened stone, marks on the walls. Someone had been here before me, maybe 100 years ago, maybe longer. Human hands, signs of shelter, symbols scratched into the rock, a timeline buried in dust and fire. I like to say I turned right back, but truth is I couldn't. I felt like I was chasing someone else's ghost, maybe the ghosts of everyone who'd come before, everyone who'd lost or found something out here. I came back the next day, and the next, drawn deeper each time. Found rails half buried, old mining tracks, bits of timber, and finally, after a week of clearing rock and mud, my pick struck something that didn't ring like stone. It rang like promise. A box, iron-bound, heavy and cold. I almost laughed, thinking it was a trick of dream maybe, or a joke left by miners who'd lost their way. But when I finally pried the lock loose, my hands shaking so bad I could barely hold the pick, the lid creaked open and I saw it. Bars of gold, coins wrapped in rotting cloth, old ledgers and maps. My head spun. It was enough to save the farm, maybe enough to buy every acre in the valley if I wanted to. But you know how stories like this go. News travels faster than truth in a small town. Next thing I knew, folks in town started looking at me different, talking in hushed voices when I came in for supplies. Strangers hanging around the ridge. One night, I spotted shadows at the edge of the property, gone before I could get a good look, but the feeling didn't leave. That gold had saved me, but it had also painted a target on my back. Things got rough. Riders coming by after dark, men asking questions that sounded friendly, but carried the bite of threat. I lied to their faces, told them I'd found nothing but stones. They laughed, but the laughter didn't follow them home. They wanted what I had, and I knew it. I started locking the doors, sleeping with the old rifle on my knees. You could feel the air tightening like a thunderstorm brewing just out of sight. Twist is it wasn't just outsiders. Men from town descendants of miners who'd worked these hills showed up, saying the gold was theirs by birthright, stolen from their grandfathers by the company that had buried it. Arguments got heated. At night, I'd hear footsteps on the porch, someone testing the latch, slinking off when they found it locked. The farm was no longer a refuge, it had become a battleground. Still, I kept digging, pushing my claim through the courts with a lawyer from town. Those documents, maps, ledgers, seals turned out to be worth more than the gold itself. They gave me legal ground, and when the sheriff finally came, he told me I'd have rights not only to the farm, but to everything beneath it. Greed circled, sure, but now I had the law on my side. The men who once threatened me faded back into their own troubles, and I watched the fences and barns go from targets to walls again. But you don't shake off fear that easily. For months, every sound outside made me reach for the rifle. I'd step onto the porch at night, half expecting shadows to come creeping, but the air felt different now, steadier, safer. Work crews came in daylight, laughter and shouts echoing across fields that had been silent too long. The cave became a place of honest work, not desperate hiding. The farm came alive, walls rebuilt, barns shining red, fences straight, livestock returning, neighbors stopping by with baskets, children's voices trailing behind them. I used to think gold was the answer to everything. Turns out, it just gives you a different set of problems. It's what you do with it while you become when tested that matters. I treated my workers fair, remembered what it was like to go hungry. I paid off my debts, rebuilt the house, but I didn't let the gold make me hard or greedy. The land was mine, sure, but it was also a trust, a legacy I'd almost lost to pride and despair. One evening, with the last light of summer sinking behind the ridge, I walked down to the ravine alone. The equipment was silent, the cave mouth dark and still. I laid my hand on the cool stone, remembered the trembling fear I'd felt the first time I crawled inside, and realized I was a different man now. Not just a survivor. Someone who'd learned that what matters isn't what you find under the earth, but what you bring back with you. The courage to stand your ground, to fight fair, to honor the past, and make room for the future. I know there'll be more storms, more shadows on the horizon. That's just life. Nothing ever stays easy for long. But I don't see a wall closing in on me anymore. I see a road opening up, fields stretching out golden and wide. A future I almost let slip away. And I think maybe, just maybe, the land gives back to those who give to it, like my father used to say. But only if you dig deep, face the darkness, and don't give up when the world tells you to quit. If this story got you thinking about luck, about grit, about what it means to stand up and claim what's yours, drop your thoughts in the comments. Was I right to keep fighting, or should I have walked away? Is justice really about who finds gold first, or who deserves it most? Share your own stories, your own battles. Like, share, and let's keep this conversation rolling, because I know I'm not the only one who's faced down the dark and come out with something worth holding on to.